Hey everybody, welcome again to the Road to the ProcureTech Cup, the show that's all about showing you, procurement professionals, the art of the possible with procurement technology. This is episode 25 of the 2025 season, and I'm really excited to have Tonkean on the show today. They're the last intake and orchestration provider that's going to be demoing their solution this season, so it should be a good episode. As you'll notice, I'm not in my regular setting. I'm not in my formal clothes. I'm out of town with the kids on March break, and so that explains that I forgot my shirt and jacket. So I'll be more like my co-host here this week. Gabe, how's it going? Chief Strategy Officer at RiseNow.
It's good. It's nice to see you a little more relaxed in a black t-shirt. I love it.
Yeah, and I've got my my Smurf, my tired Smurf, which is my avatar for fatherhood. So
I can relate to that one for sure.
Cool, man. So we'll get started here. Just a reminder to everybody, we're on the road to the ProcureTech Cup, as I just said. So the journey continues. We've been showing you different solution providers in the procurement technology space ever since September on every Friday. We're 3 to go from the actual ProcureTech Cup tournament that happens starting March 24th on LinkedIn. So if you're not already following the pre-procurement newsletter to get all the news around that, make sure you subscribe. I'll have a QR code at the end of the show, but it's also at the top of the screen here. And that being said, that's all the housekeeping we have to do for now. So I'll bring our guests on here from Tonkean. We've got Matt Aronson, Director of Product Marketing, and Mike Pearson, head demo monkey, as he calls himself, but Director of Pre-Sales. So thanks for being on, guys. How's it going?
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to see what you guys have in store for us. So just a reminder to everybody that's watching the show, say hi in the chat if you're there. We're going to go through company overview. So they're going to tell us what Tonkean's all about, the unique value proposition and ideal customer profile for the solution. And then we'll dive into a solution demo that Mike's going to lead. And after the demo, we'll get to the RiseNow Let's Get Real segment just to ask some tough questions around, okay, this is great in a demo, but what about making it work in your client context and your context as a company, a procurement organization? And then we'll wrap up with the ProcureTech market map. So that being said, Matt, if you want to take it away, we can certainly start.
Okay.
I don't know if I just got to get your slides up here, and we'll get going. So you take it away.
Thank you very much, Joel. So before we talk about what Tonkean does in more detail, I want to sort of set up what are the pain points and challenges that we are in business to address with procurement teams. It really starts with the fact that CPOs generally are not happy with their technology investments, right? So nearly 90% of them say they don't get great value from it. This is from an Ardent Partners survey. Let's talk about why that's happening and why it matters. So two sort of primary reasons cited in this survey. One is low requester compliance, right? Only 14% claim high adoption of procurement tools among employees. The other is misaligned processes and systems. You have all these tools, all this data. Do they fit into how your people and your processes and your policies come together, right? And there are some really significant downstream problems that come from that, right? So you're going to have higher rogue spend, missed savings opportunities, right? You're going to have slower cycle times as processes sit in that sort of yawning gap in between people, in between applications, in between steps. And ultimately, you're going to have a procurement team full of highly paid and high expertise professionals who are wasting their valuable bandwidth doing things like helping requesters do their intake over again, for example, and sending things back and forth. So what do you need? How do you address these problems? Well, when it comes to low requester adoption, you've probably heard things like, how do I do X? Where do I even start? Employees who feel alienated and confused by your systems and processes, they need more personalization, and they need your processes to come to them in places where you already work, or where they already work, I should say. Maybe you're tired of hearing, what's the status of my request, right? Where does it go next? More visibility helps a lot with that, right? For misaligned processes and systems, perhaps you've heard, oh, I've already approved it. You need legal to sign off, or that's not what it says in the ERP. You likely need orchestration, right? That automates handoffs across departments and systems and keeps all the data consistent. Maybe you found yourself complaining that processes in your systems can't keep up with changes in policy, changes in personnel, and that IT is a bottleneck for making changes. That's where business-led configuration comes in, so that you're not dependent on IT or other technical resources. So with all that laid out, right, that's where Tonkean comes in. We actually started our life as a company as a no-code orchestration platform, and that remains at the core of our technology. This is a platform that can be used to develop custom apps, workflows, and automations for virtually any type of enterprise process. In the last several years, we've discovered that procurement teams in particular, along with legal teams, arguably have the most to gain from this type of technology. And our momentum is pretty staggering, right? I did not put a logo slide in the deck today, but you can go to tonkean.com and check out some of the types of enterprise customers we've brought on board, great case studies there. But what Procurement Works, our procurement solution, does is it connects to your procure-to-pay system, all of your other relevant applications to satisfy all of those needs and more with two core components. One is a frictionless intake experience that meets employees where they are, anticipates their needs, and guides them through their requests with complete visibility with tools like an AI front door that interprets plain language requests, answers clarification questions about policies and processes, and routes to the right intake sequences from a dedicated portal or from Slack or Teams or email. AI auto handle, pre-filling fields, both from the intent signaled in the AI front door chat and also any and every third-party system where certain data points might live to take that burden off the requester. Inline AI Q&A that is contextually aware, knows where your requesters are working and so forth and how to answer accordingly. And inline collaboration, right? Building on that AI Q&A, this is where you can bring a human into the loop. So the procurement and other cross-functional partners can help answer questions, fill out a request, and even add subtasks on the fly. The orchestration engine brings people, processes, applications, and data into harmony with orchestrated workflows. It accelerates handoffs, reviews, and approvals in alignment with your processes and policies. It centralizes tickets and reporting from every system, automates repetitive manual tasks, and ultimately empowers procurement to evolve processes as needed with a 100% no-code process editor. I want to take a moment on this. Tonkean connects, like I said, procure-to-pay to the entire enterprise tech stack. Critically, these connectors are built and maintained by Tonkean, right? So not something your IT team, other than providing an API key, perhaps ever has to deal with. These are native integrations in the native orchestration platform. I think we are the only, I believe, major procurement and intake and orchestration provider who can claim that instead of white labeling a third-party iPaaS or workflow tool under the surface. And so that means having more direct control, being able to handle complexity involving multiple ERPs, for example, mapping custom fields properly, having a truly stateful architecture built to handle enterprise complexity, right?
So if I can ask a question on that, so
Sure.
just the audience understands, I think you went over something pretty important very quickly. You guys aren't using a third-party middleware. You have productized integrations on behalf of the customer, correct?
That is correct, yes.
And if a customer needs new integrations, is it something you productize or is it something you do one-off?
We will often add new integrations at the request of a specific customer, but then we do usually make those available in our library, which you can check out on our website, to everybody.
And is this because you started off as an orchestration platform before you got to even doing procurement processes?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, at its core, this is a platform and a technology that is designed to wrap around your existing tools and make them play nicely together.
Great. Thank you.
And to your point, right? Like if I'm a global organization with 18 ERPs, 4 source to pay suites, some Coupa, some Ariba, I can tie all of this together with a single set of processes, right?
That's absolutely right. Yep. So we've just launched a new layer to our core platform that has some really exciting possibilities for procurement teams. Agentic orchestration, which we define as the enterprise-ready approach to AI automation, where autonomous agents work alongside employees to coordinate workflows and execute tasks and drive outcomes, all while, and this is critical, all while following configurable policies and guardrails. Essentially takes the AI front door and equips it with new skills, a multi-agent architecture, and this marriage of autonomous AI with deterministic workflows to proactively carry out back office processes while ensuring governance, auditability, and compliance. Do check that out on our website as well. I want to wrap up here by sort of talking about what sets Tonkean apart and who can benefit the most from adopting Tonkean. For one thing, we're enterprise ready. We are really built to serve enterprise scale and enterprise complexity organizations. It's proactive and interoperable, right? More than 200 plug and play integrations, a stateful architecture with active monitoring. This is not checking the status of things on a daily or weekly batch basis. As soon as a trigger takes place, the next action is set into motion. And it's human centric, right? Meeting employees where they work, keeping a human in the loop at critical moments, and emphasizing really those intuitive experiences. So who are we for, right? Enterprise scale businesses, procurement teams facing a high volume of procurement requests, especially sort of indirect procurement requests on the long tail, organizations seeking to improve adoption of P2P, S2P, ERP systems, and in turn improve their spend under management. Perhaps you have poor process adoption among requesters, and that's not uncommon, right? And high rogue spend, inefficient approval cycles, multiple procure-to-pay systems and or ERPs. A lot of the companies who come to us are growing fast and adding new business units via M&A and trying to unify the experience while they do the long and hard integration work of bringing the core systems together. So with that, I want to hand it off to Mike to give you an in-depth look of the actual platform here.
Beautiful.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Oh, go ahead, Joel.
No, I was going to say beautiful and hand it over to you. So you're one step ahead of me.
Yeah. So I get the fun task of, I mentioned I'm the demo monkey, right? So it's my turn to dance here, but I'm going to walk you guys through this as quickly as I can. I know that time is short and there's a lot of cool functionality that Matt just talked about that I want to highlight. So I want to start off with, the Tonkean AI front door. This is a web interface where users can engage with that intelligence and that frictionless intake that Matt was talking about. So users can really ask anything, right? This is no longer a SharePoint page where you have to go and read 13 different paragraphs to determine what buying channel you need. I can ask any questions. I could say something like, I'm looking for an IT consultant. Who else should I evaluate besides Deloitte? Tonkean will go out across its connected data sources. So this is where those guardrails that Matt was referring to come into play. We're going out across those connected data sources and bringing information and analysis back to the user about this query that they asked about. So going through several different supplier entity level information, looking at what commodities they provide, and ultimately leveraging generative AI to bring back a summary of that information to the end user. And they can further see additional detail like strengths and weaknesses and market share information, what their status is in the existing P2P technology that they're using in their supplier master, right? If it's an active supplier. So everything is right there. So I could then say, send an RFI to FTI, right? And this is where these agents really become powerful, right? Because we can actually go out and perform some of these tasks that are swivel chair processes that your end users in organizations are performing today. And it will actually come back, create a templated document based on our standard RFI and bring that information back. And then it will even offer me to send that out to the supplier by providing an email address. So everything, is flowing through that easy front door. We can also, quickly respond to plain language queries and guide those users into specific purchasing experiences based on different queries. So in this case, I had a question that I'm looking to purchase Snowflake software for to improve reporting and data availability across our organization. Tonkean has automatically filled in this form for me based on that query I had with that AI front door. So we're parsing that information out and then allowing the organizations to tailor these intake experiences as well to gather additional details. Maybe they want to capture the need by date to prioritize these activities. So users can go through a various, intake sequences and what we call micro experiences. So we're spoon feeding information and only asking the important, relevant information, pulling in information from those connected systems like your Coupas, your Arebas, your NetSuites, your Oracles, right? Wherever that information resides and we're connected to, we can monitor that detail, automatically suggesting suppliers based on those conversations, bringing in the relevant information, even allowing users to create new suppliers or search for other suppliers and bring in environmental, social governance information as part of the process as well when they're selecting these suppliers. So you can go through a various intake sequences, giving the user feedback of where they are in that process as well. So we're really crafting this experience, allowing users to engage that AI concierge and an LLM to craft responses or help get answers to information, or potentially even engaging other users within the organization by just tagging people's names that I could say, at Roy, please help me, fill this, information out, right? So I can engage other people in the organization that have the information and reach out to them via their communication channels like Teams and Slack or email, to bring them into this conversation to help get through that intake. Ultimately, what this is going to look like, from that end user perspective, is we're bringing that visibility to the end users of where their request is in the overall process, right? This is where there's a lot of gaps in visibility when you get into the specific steps that are happening in the review processes of these purchase intakes, right? With legal teams, InfoSec teams. So we can bring in that visibility, even providing the downstream links back to the user of where we're orchestrating this transaction across downstream systems as well, bringing in PO information, invoice information, tracking approvals, audit history, and whether you're leveraging a Coupa as your P2P or something like SAP Ariba. It doesn't matter from Tonkean's perspective. We work with any technology that supports these API or webhook integrations to bring that information to your end users and transact with those systems. Ultimately, what this intake experience then does is it allows us to orchestrate these transactions across these various review stakeholders and teams that need to perform different functions. So in this example, we've created a Jira ticket where the InfoSec team may be completing their tasks, or a ServiceNow, right? So this is where we're actually orchestrating these transactions and activities across these different technologies that are used within the organization. So they can work within their system, mark it as done, and Tonkean monitors that status and automatically advances it on when those are completed.
So I got a question. You were going pretty fast. Maybe take a drink of water while I ask it. But if you go back to the RFX example, I thought that was pretty interesting. An RFI was sent out. We didn't see the RFI. I'm assuming that there was templates and some rules that said that because of X, this is the template. That was a pretty cool example, but there's a lot that was behind the scenes that wasn't shown. How do you determine that? And how does a company actually have it set up? Because you have to have good data and good processes for that to work like that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where, the beauty of Tonkean's orchestration platform comes into play in actually orchestrating these various agents. So we can use information about the commodity that it's related to select a specified template, or direct the user to a specific agent that is, specific to IT consulting RFIs, right? And we can very granularly in plain language give it instructions within that agent of where are we replacing information in that template, what are the tags that we need to replace, and what's
the agent could actually make updates to the template as well for review. Can the agent write a template if there's not one in your library for you to review?
If you give it access to, it can, right? That's again, that's where those guardrails come into play. So a lot of the answers with Tonkean are a yes, in that how you build your workflows and where you're comfortable using that technology.
And the big shift that I see is like, instead of taking all our time doing the work today, right, we need to start spending our time structuring the work, because we have all these agents and capabilities available to generate the work, generate the drafts, etc. And so, if you spend time on business rules, on processes, on connecting the right experiences and commodity codes to purchasing channels together, that's how you win, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and really what we're trying to do is provide that visibility to the organizations as well, right? So we can craft dashboards that bring information to the surface of what are your SLAs across those granular review steps. We have over 220 out-of-the-box data sources that are available to connect for, and this is where Matt was referring to earlier, that Tonkean maintains these. These are integrated through Tonkean, and we manage and maintain those relationships. A couple of highlights here from a no-code orchestration perspective, right? All of this is done in drag and drop fashion, so we can leverage conditionality to funnel users into the appropriate guided intake experiences, and then ultimately craft what the downstream activity is going to take place. So whether that be, creating a requisition in a system like Coupa. Let me refresh my screen there, where I'm just selecting the fields that have been gathered through that various intake and populating those into the parameters that Tonkean already knows through that integration are required on the downstream system end. So it is a simple no-code process to select the values and bring in information across those systems as that orchestration takes place, and then create those transactions in the downstream systems, bringing multiple fields together into one place in a downstream system, and even information from other systems that eliminates those swivel chair processes for the end users.
Very cool. And I think that actually leads really well into a question that we got in the chat from Arjun, who asks, is Tonkean typically a front end for all procurement modules a company has? So requisition to pay, supplier management, sourcing, contract management, risk management, or just for some of them, such as requisition to pay and supplier onboarding? Does the user sometimes end up in the modules behind it, or does he or she only see the Tonkean front end? So long question, but
Tonkean's configurable around the user experience that works best for your organization. So our Procurement Works is a blueprint that's that starting point for you, and then you guys can make updates and changes and configuration customizations to those blueprints to support your workflows. But generally we do wrap around existing technology and try to provide the best user experience, whether that's crafting that in Tonkean or directing the users to the systems that you already have.
And certainly we do cover all of those use cases that Arjun listed there as well, right?
Very cool. And so, great demo, Mike, and great presentation, Matt, but I think it's time to get real.
So yeah, I mean, it's a super slick demo. I think, when I look back at it, you mentioned something, Matt, in the beginning. It seems like your ideal customer profile is large, complex enterprises. With that, what Mike showed is beautiful, but if you're a layer on top of a wasteland or a place with poor data, or it's hard to make it work like that. I think a lot of people see intake and orchestration as an amazing space and solution, but I don't know that, if I've got an orchestra and I've got, a violin with a string broken, I've got a trombone that doesn't slide, it doesn't sound the same. It doesn't work the same, even though it has the potential to. So how, are you guys, when you come into a large, complex organization, there's going to be lots of problems in terms of interconnectivity of current solutions. Data is super critical. Different processes and different teams that don't actually work together. How do you come into that complex environment and ensure that Tonkean is not just a layer over something broken, but that they actually use this as a chance to transform?
This is a great question, and I think it's a demonstrative question and sort of teasing out the difference between the intake part and the experience part and the orchestration part, right? Because most organizations have the bigger the organization, the more tangled the web gets when it comes to the data, right? And so Orchestration is designed, is built for bad data, right? Checking the data, selecting the data, correcting the data that you need in flight, reconciling data across platforms, identifying and highlighting inconsistency because it is centralizing and aggregating all these tools and all these data sources. Where there are exceptions in the data, right? That's where you can bring the human into the loop and correct it. So not only can orchestration help identify, it can go further to help address it. And this is sort of the difference also between orchestration and automation, right? Orchestration is not just automation, it includes automation. But one of the key differences is that orchestration is about applications, data, and people, right? Introducing people into those critical moments in those processes. And so, far from being an obstacle to adopting a tool like Tonkean, in our conversations with our prospects and our customers, it often becomes one of the reasons to adopt Tonkean at the end of the day, right?
And you mentioned something there that's really important to go a little deeper on this, right? The people. The operating model is critical. There's two things that I've seen out when I'm talking to customers. Is one, the operating model needs to transform as well. It's not just a technology solution, but also whether it's Coupa, Ariba, Jaguar, Ivalua, Zycus, whatever the platform or the source-based suite, excuse my language, is under it, that potentially is not deployed correctly or utilized in the best way, or potentially bad processes were put in those systems. So how does orchestration play? Are you seeing your customers look at the operating model, optimize their current systems, or how does Tonkean help with that?
I think we really bring users to the appropriate, systems and technology throughout that process, right? We eliminate that guesswork for the end users to intelligently orchestrate them through the appropriate processes. So it's really about meeting the end users where they work, to drive them into those solutions. I've spent 15 years in P2P software, and they're built for the procurement teams and the sourcing teams, and that are performing those functions, not the requesters that have their own systems and tools that they're using on their teams, and they're not experts in this procurement functionality or process, right?
And I feel like I don't want to answer for you guys, but I feel like, when you're transforming or implementing a Coupa and Ariba, all these types of systems, an ERP change, what have you, right? It's always great when you think about the end state, but you're constantly in transitional state, right? Whether it's another business unit, et cetera. And I feel like orchestration is kind of it's the tool to help you live in that transitional state that you're in inevitably forever, right? So,
right.
So that's kind of the way I see it.
A composable environment, right? Where
it eliminates change fatigue and technology change fatigue on end users.
And it can really smooth out that process for the end user, right? That what's happening below the surface can change in every meaningful way, while their experience can remain pretty consistent.
Very cool. And so I will bring up the ProcureTech Cup market map that we bring up every week, just to help you illustrate a little bit more where you fit into the ProcureTech space. And I think it kind of, I'll bring Martin Ward's question as well, who said, and we can kind of answer it here as well, who asks, what's Tonkean's ambition? Is it to gradually replace suites by bringing in functionality such as sourcing, or sticking to orchestration? And this is the place to address that. I want you to talk about roadmap, where you fit into the space, and where you're going.
It's a great question from Martin, and unequivocally, our ambition is not to replace P2P or ERP or the suites, right? Our ambition is to help wrap around your existing tools, the power tools, right, that the primary users adopt to do their jobs really well, right? Whether they're in procurement or legal or finance or any other kind of partner function that touches a procurement process. They can work in their own tools. They can work in Tonkean. That long tail of requesters and other stakeholders can have a really slick, guided experience. We can make everything work together, but we are not out to launch our own source to pay tool.
That being said, there's a big green square here. So can you help reconcile that?
Sure. Well, I think, and when we were prepping for this, I think what rationalizes the big green square is just the nature of what intake and orchestration is, right? Which is to say, that you can draw a distinction between what's supported natively and what is supported via orchestration. Sometimes those lines can blur a little bit. Certainly, we do have light capabilities. If you don't have a sourcing tool and you want to build a bare bones sourcing process, or if you want to build a very lightweight contract lifecycle management process within Tonkean, you certainly can. But for the most part, again, I mean, this is about bringing all of these things together in a way that works operationally, functionally, and that you can really derive the most value of all of your technology investments.
Very cool. Very cool. As we wrap up the show here, I want to thank you guys for coming on and answering our questions so thoroughly, both Gabe and I and people from the comments as well. So that being said, where can folks learn more about Tonkean? Where can they get in touch if they want to see that supplier onboarding experience and the other ones that you have in the Procurement Works solution? Yeah,
please do come to Tonkean.com. You can reach out to us there. You can also email us directly at sales@Tonkean.com. Would love to have any and all conversations about your processes and how we might be able to support you.
Beautiful, beautiful. And as always, thanks to everybody for tuning in, for watching. I know there's folks in Europe that tune in on Friday nights. Power to you, my friends. If you wanna keep in touch for the Road to the ProcureTech Cup, the big tournament that's coming in March, starting on March 24th. Scan the QR code here on screen and you'll get notified on Sunday nights. Plus, you get a nice little piece from myself on best practices around how to use and leverage ProcureTech. If you have any needs for redesigning your operating model, looking at different business processes, looking at how to select solutions in this space, Gabe and I are your folks for that as well. So don't hesitate to reach out on LinkedIn. And as always, thanks very much for tuning in. Gabe, Mike, Matt, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you again all next week.
Thanks.
Great.
Bye-bye.
All right.